What's up, everybody? Alex from WMD here, back at you again, and this time we're talking about another brand new module. This one is called Kraken. Kraken is a digital percussion synthesizer in 8HP, specifically designed around snare drum sounds. So we've gotten lots of requests for a snare module after our Crater, Fracture, Chimera, and Crucible modules, and we've been working really hard on this one, and we're really excited to finally be able to show you what this thing sounds like. So in this video, I am going to talk a lot. If you do want to hear just a video full of sounds, we have a 15 minutes of sounds from the Kraken video somewhere around here. Be sure to go check that out. But for now, this video, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to talk through all of the features, showing you what everything does, and we'll make some sounds along the way. So yeah, let's just check it out. So as you can see here, I have my Kraken module, 8HP, and I'm just going to hit the button and we're going to make a couple snare sounds, and we're just going to go through the sounds and see what it sounds like real quick. So as you can tell, super realistic snare sounds. So now we're just going to go through all the features. I'm just going to hit it with some triggers here. And right now we're just using the head input. So you can hear that we've got, this is like you're hitting the drum with a stick on the head. Huge range of sounds with the knobs. And now if we switch over to the rim input, you'll hear we're just hitting the rim like a side stick. The rim is still affecting the entire model. So you can kind of choose what your rim's going to sound like with all these controls as well. But we're still hitting the resonators, we're still hitting the snares just a little bit, so we're getting a very realistic kind of click sound. So let's bring it back to the head here. So now I'm just going to bring another trigger in here, and if you hit them at the same time, we get kind of a rim shot. So this is the sound of you hitting both the head and the rim at the same time. And then we also have an accent input. And this just makes the snare just a tiny bit louder. It gives you just a little bit of variation. The accent is pretty subtle. We did that on purpose because we also have a velocity input that I'll get to in a little bit. All right, so first things, let's just go through the knobs. So here we go. This is the shell knob. So this is basically controlling how big the shell is, as well as what kind of like material it's made of. So as I turn it up, you'll hear the resonance becomes, a different character as well as higher in pitch as we go. All the way up to a super tiny snare. We also have Decay. This is basically a VCA over the output with an envelope. So we can have a nice long snare, the big ring out, or we can go nice and short. So next we have the low tune. You can kind of think of this as like the bottom head, or really it's just the lower head. So the one you're going to tune, you kind of want to find the fundamental with this guy. So the shell and the low tune really interact very well together. Next we have pitch. So this is basically another pitch control. And so basically we kind of have two resonators going on between these two, as well as the shell. So all of these interact with each other a ton. Next we have the overtone. This is the amount of overtone you're going to hear over the top. So let's turn snares all the way down. You can hear this is just the drum sound. We're going to turn overtone up. Turning it back down. So that kind of gives you that high-pitched ringing. So sometimes with snare tones, you might like this, you might want to cut it out. So this is kind of a like mic technique as well as just like how much muffling is on the snare. And then we have snares. So this is how tight the snares are or how much of the snares are, I guess. So the more you turn up the snares, the more ring out you get. It kind of gets looser, but also the more that they are touching that bottom head. So again, we can go straight from like this like Lindrum kind of sound here to a much more high pitch, short kind of deal. Ooh, I like that one. Alright, so next we have the rec switch as well as rec inputs. So if you have nothing plugged in to the rec input, all the way to the left, this is just the pure snare sound. If we switch to the middle, we engage a wavefolder. And if we switch to the right, we go to bit depth reduction, which gives us a more kind of like crackly, reduced bitrate sound. A really cool thing about this is it also has the rec input, so we can control how much of this we're going to get with CV. But if we're on the very left side, we've got this clean drum sound again. We can turn up the gain into distortion. And this gets almost fed back with the crazy shell sounds. So again, dial in how much distortion you want. So now we'll go to the wavefolder side. And if we flip to the middle with no CV now, you can hear we had barely any change. So this is the minimum amount of wavefolding. And as we turn it up, we get this almost compressed kind of sound. Back down. And now we're going to go back over to the bit depth reduction. This is one of my favorite sounds. So here we go all the way to the right. Barely any bit depth, and then listen to what happens as I turn it up. So you get this kind of nasty tail. So that bit depth reduction is definitely there to kind of mimic sampler sounds, right? So we have these sounds you can create from scratch 100% with synthesis. And then with that bit depth reduction, you can turn that up a little bit and just get a little bit of crunch at the end, similar to the way that it might sound if you're using something like an SP1200 or you know, just some old sampler that has that reduced bit depth sound. All right, so I'm going to remove that. Go back to the clean side. Now check this out. Right here on the model, we're using digital noise. So this means that every time Kraken is triggered, we're hearing the same noise burst come out, which is giving us a very sample-like sound. But if we switch to the middle, we're going to switch to analog noise, and now it's going to sound more like an acoustic drum, where it'll sound different every time we hit it. So this is the noise for the snare section. So again, go back to the digital side. Let's do some real big rolls here. You can hear how it sounds almost like a sampler at that point, right? Now let's go to the middle. Now it sounds a lot more natural, like a real drummer playing in the room. Now if we go to the right side, we're engaging a pitch shifter on the output. And so now this kind of gets all crazy. This is our more experimental mode. So again, you can kind of emulate old gross samplers. Let's turn that bit depth reduction on. Oh man, that was cool. I'm going to turn that bit depth reduction down a little bit here with the rec knob, or the rec input. Alright, let's go back to the realistic mode. And wrong output. I'm just going to go back to the clear mode, clean mode. And now we're just going to go and experiment with velocity. So you can see as soon as I put a cable into velocity, the velocity goes down. This is because we're basically at 80% velocity when nothing's plugged in. So now I can use something like Voltera or any style of sequencer to sequence my velocity. So I'm going to go loud on the front, and I'm going to do a crescendo across the back. Let's make that more pronounced. There we go. So now I'm just going to do some rolls, just some 16th note rolls here. And we'll just assign, let's just record velocity in with recording knob movement with Voltera. Go to that sample side again. Or sample-like sound, I guess. The digital noise. Go back to the analog noise. And now let's hear what it sounds like with pitch shifter. So as you can tell, super easy to dial in all sorts of different realistic snare drum sounds as well as kind of crazy alien snare drum sounds. The velocity gives you a ton of control over how the drummer's playing and exactly what's going on. I'm going to do a couple more things just to show that off. So here we go. I'm just going to do some quarter notes. And then I'm going to add some like flams here, right? So right now we've just got 16th note flams. So let's go into microtiming on Metron and push this guy back a little bit. There we go. Now with this one, I'm going to turn it way down and the next one way up as far as velocity. Plug my input back in. Now we can hear that this guy was super quiet. Let's do a rough now. So I'm going to do the same thing. This is kind of like a drag. So I'm going to go into microtiming and I'm going to do 2 hits. Maybe a little bit more loud. There we go. Now this one again, turn it way down, turn the next one all the way up. Now we're getting kind of like marching band territory. Now let's do a roll at the end with bursts. And I'm going to do a flam into this guy. So let's do microtiming again. Nice little late guy. Turn that one down. Turn this one up. Then let's actually do that crescendo again here. All right. So those are our realistic sounds. Let's see what we can do when we get kind of weird with it. So first thing, I'm just going to program in some triggers here. Then I'm going to add some triggers in on the rim. Some will hit on at the same time and some will hit at the opposite time. And let's just turn velocity all the way up for now. All right, that sounds pretty cool. Let's just turn this rec amount up on the first side here. And pretty distorted. Now let's add some more notes. Alright, so I'm going to take another Voltera lane. I'm going to run that into our shell. See what that sounds like. And so the shell knob sums with the CV, so if I turn it all the way down, we get the full range of CV. That's pretty crazy. Let's take another Voltera out and run it into Decay. Turn Decay down. Now I'm going to go out of output 4 here. Let's run that one into snare amount. Turn snares all the way down again. Let's turn that rec up a little bit more. Alright, so instead of snares now, I'm going to go into the pitch input. Let's hear what it sounds like when we go to the pitch shifter. So when you go into pitch shifter mode, the pitch knob takes over for the pitch shifter as well as the pitch input. Let's go here with the wavefolder. And now with the bit depth. Alright, so that is Kraken. Just a super quick run through of all the controls. I mean, it's a pretty crazy module. It's got the ability to make some very traditional snare drum tones all the way from your just like big guttural smack snare drum up into your more like drum and bass kind of really small piccolo snare style. And then as you heard just now, when you load it up with CV, you can get super experimental. So yeah, I hope this gives you an idea of how Kraken might fit into your own setup. As I said earlier, definitely check out our other videos. As always, please like and subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Peace.